Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Justin Miller. Justin B. Two Justins. Two Justins in the class. Okay. Two Justins. Okay, so we are continuing on page it's page 20. Yeah, page 20. So Justin B, do you think you could send Justin Miller the book on email? Because I don't think he has the book, or maybe he does.
I don't have his information, Prabhu. Right now I'm in the car.
Oh, okay.
What did he say?
He says
he's in the car.
Oh,
Yeah, so he can't
car.
say. But if you want to put info, your email on the chat board, we can just forward ours to him if you'd like.
Okay, great. I'll throw it in there. Thanks.
All right. So Justin Miller's going to get the book soon. We're on page 20. Okay. So yeah, Justin Miller, there'll be some writing exercises. So you'll need like a pen or paper, or use your computer or something like that.
Okay.
So there's Justin Miller's email. So I'll just we'll just start, and then you'll get the book soon. We're on page 20, and then there's a writing exercise soon. So lesson topics: function of the founder acharya. So what's the function of the founder acharya? Prabhupada, the empowered representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ISKCON in the future. So this is the function of the charya. The function of the founder acharya: to found, to give a basis or firm support to ground in a subject of instruction, to set up or establish for the first time an institution, etc., with provision for its perpetual existence. So the writing exercise, this is the writing exercise. It is list below ways Srila Prabhupada functions as ISKCON's founder acharya. So what are some ways Prabhupada functions as founder acharya? So we'll just take a few minutes to, yeah, right. You could write in the book if you want. You can keep that book. Founder acharya. So would anyone like to share some ways she probably, want to share something, Stevie?
So I put as the topmost authority for the ISKCON. So establishing foundation is the head Acharya.
All right. So yeah, Stevie said the topmost authority. And that way he functions as founder Acharya, he's the topmost authority.
I was thinking back to when he says when Prabhupada was explaining when the literature was being produced and they weren't putting founder Acharya, and how he went back and said that it needed to be on there.
Yeah.
And originally I thought it was for, what was that reason? But then I understood he's establishing foundation, and that's the only way is to have that authority. And
Yeah. Yeah, Stevie was bringing up that when they were first producing the books, Srila Prabhupada's books, sometimes devotees would forget to add the title because it's supposed to be founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace, A.C. Buck. So they're missing certain points, certain aspects to. They weren't fully putting his name. They weren't putting founder. Sometimes they weren't putting Acharya. Sometimes they weren't putting. They're missing parts. So Prabhupada, that happened a number of times, and Srila Prabhupada got upset. And he said, you have to put this. And it wasn't out of, false ego or pride or anything like that, but he was just trying to get it into the minds of all of his disciples that, it's an important point that there has to be a founder Acharya. And because sometimes if there's not somebody in charge, that means somebody else could come in and be the founder Acharya. And then they could start changing the philosophy, then they could start changing the practices, and then they could just change everything. And then it's not Srila Prabhupada's movement, how it's not how it's supposed to be. Just like what they did with the Bhagavad Gita, it was commented on so many times, and so many of these times it was just speculative, changing the philosophy. So Prabhupada said, put founder Acharya and try to get into everyone's minds that he's the founder Acharya, because that means he's the ultimate authority and we follow him. And if somebody wants to introduce something else that's different and just incorrect, like Srila Prabhupada said that those who are initiated should chant 16 rounds. So if somebody comes in and they say, well, they have some charisma, they have some intelligence, they have a whatever, and they say, well, actually that was for back then, now things have become a lot more busy, this isn't practical, we need to chant 2 rounds only. And everybody say, okay, great, 2 rounds only. But you get a lot more disciples like that, right? And yeah, anyway, so there's so many ways things could be changed. So but if people realize that, okay, he's the Acharya, he's the founder Acharya, now if they want to not follow, then okay, then they don't have to be initiated. Or if they want to change the philosophy, then they start their own movement or whatever, join a movement that has a similar according to their liking. So in other words, he was trying to establish it in such ways that it could not be changed. That was the idea. Because then someone say, well, why does he not want it to be changed? What is he, some like person who's attached to rules and regulations and not progressive? Like, why does he want it not to be changed? What's the big deal? I mean, times change. Shouldn't we adjust the philosophy? Shouldn't we adjust the practice to suit the modern audience more and more and more and more and more? And the answer to that is that, well, that we could change the practice. For example, don't chant 16 rounds, chant 2 rounds means those who get initiated. So it means wholesale, wide cell, like everyone will just be chanting 2 rounds a day, not 16 like Prabhupada wanted them to, those who are initiated. That could happen. Or we could say, hey, it's tough times, like, I don't know. Because there's groups that actually there's Vaishnava groups that say, chant Hare Krishna and also take intoxication. This helps in the chanting of Hare Krishna. It helps kind of, get more into the mantra, So someone could introduce that, okay, take any intoxication you want according to your liking, chant 2 rounds a day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They could try to water it down, they could try to change it, but what will happen? What will happen is that they won't get the result, the desired result. The pure Krishna consciousness, pure love for Krishna, they won't get that result. So Prabhupada gave a process by which following we get the pure result. So therefore he was very concerned that it wouldn't be changed. So that's the idea. It's not that he's attached to it, just it's not that he's attached for it for his own personal pleasure, aggrandizement, or whatever, but he just wants to see people get the highest benefit. That's all. So if he establishes himself as the founder Acharya, then there's more likelihood that there'll at least be that ISKCON won't, turn into something else. I mean, already as it is within ISKCON, there's lots of worries, at least with some people, that ISKCON, not, of course, when you say ISKCON, I mean, there's so many temples, so many devotees, but ISKCON means ISKCON in some places around the world might be veering off this way, that way, according to Prabhupada's desire. There's already worries about that. despite Prabhupada clearly saying so many things so many times about so many topics. There's still worries. So what to speak of if he was more kind of vague about things? I mean, he was very clear about things, and still there's some kind of tendencies to veer off. What to speak if he wasn't clear? So therefore, he said, establish himself, founder Acharya. That's some idea of why. Does anybody have any thing you'd like to say, or comments about that, or questions about that? Okay.
I have a
All
comment
right.
or a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a topic that's sort of on my mind, so I'm glad you brought it up. And it seems like ISKCON today is much different than it was when Prabhupada was here. I don't know if you have any comments on that,
You want me to give comments on that?
or if you think I'm incorrect or
Oh, okay.
anything.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it is different than when Srila Prabhupada was here, but it really is kind of like if you go place to place, like temple to temple, or because like one time one devotee was talking about, oh, ISKCON is so bad, and ISKCON this, ISKCON that, and why doesn't ISKCON just, like fix all its problems, this and that? And this devotee said, oh, you're wondering why ISKCON is like this, ISKCON is like that, ISKCON is like this. Well, why don't you just go ask ISKCON? Meaning, like, what does that mean? ISKCON, like, it's a huge society. There's so many temples, so many devotees. So it's hard just to say exactly what is going on in ISKCON. I mean, it's not such a small, group or something. It's a lot. I think there's like 600 temples now throughout the world, maybe more. Maybe because they're building temples in India a lot. So it is different in some ways. Like, for example, when Srila Prabhupada was here, they would go up to him and they would ask him a question about something. Do you think this is right? Do you think this is wrong? What should we be doing? And Prabhupada would say, yes, it's wrong, and you shouldn't be doing that. And all the devotees would say, okay, great, thank you. And they just accept it. Or Prabhupada would say, yes, it's right, keep on doing it. They say, okay, great. And they would just accept it. Nowadays, there's so many gurus and so many issues, means things that people have questions. Is it right? Is it wrong? Should we do this? Should we do that? And there's not one ultimate person to say yes, no, it's good, it's bad. So it could become a little complicated. Just like, for example, there is a number of devotees who are not concerned at all, one bit, with the editing of Srila Prabhupada's books. And then there's a number of devotees who are absolutely concerned with the editing of Srila Prabhupada's books. Most of these are older devotees who are concerned. Now, what does that mean? It means that Prabhupada's, his English was his second language. And to try to write a bunch of books in second language, I mean, even writing in first language, I mean, try to write a book without an editor. I mean, you need an editor. It's like, even if you're writing, if you're an English-born speaker and person, you need an editor. I mean, or they have that saying, doctors have doctors, right? So even if you are an editor, you'll hire an editor to edit your work. So Srila Prabhupada, he accepted that he accepted the idea of having an editor because it's a common sense thing. He accepted it and he engaged his disciples like that. So then what happened is, after Srila Prabhupada left, the devotees kept on editing because Prabhupada produced a huge volume of work within like 10 years or less. And they had to keep on editing things. So some devotees said, oh, they went a little overboard. You know, they should have kept this how it was. They should have kept that how it was. Yeah, so there's a lot of devotees actually quite upset. Most, I would say, are not, but there are some who are. Now, and now they've just had they have a whole panel of devotees, senior devotees who are overlooking. Mostly, it's the Bhagavad Gita. We're overlooking the Bhagavad Gita right now, and then they're going to make kind of final decisions. So now, how is that different from when Srila Prabhupada was here? Well, if Srila Prabhupada was here, he would just say, I like these edits. Like, case closed. All of you are mad because you think that they're messing up my books, but I'm very happy. They're making my books more clear, more understandable. They're not changing the message. They're just, you know, editing things to make it more flowing and clear. So I'm actually happy. So no need to think about this. But because Prabhupada's not here, we can't ask him that. Then there's a whole bunch of devotees who are thinking about it. So there's some examples, and there's many things like that. So that's one thing. It creates a challenge because it creates a challenge because all of these different topics like book edits, this, that, there's a number of them. It could create it could become very divisive. It divides people, these different topics. Hey, you're into editing. I'm not. You're into, like we were talking about Ritvik. We were talking about that in the last one. You're into that, I'm not. So that's another thing. If Prabhupada was here, he would say, yes, Ritvikism is great, continue. Or of course, if Prabhupada is here, there'd be no idea of Ritvikism because they'd be speaking initially about Prabhupada. But anyways, but if we're able to communicate with them, we get clear answers. So it's different in that way. It's different in the way that Prabhupada was a extremely extraordinary and inconceivably empowered devotee, and he was really inspiring people. So now we have a hard time getting people to take out the trash. But Prabhupada was, getting people to do a lot more than take out the trash. Of course, taking out the trash is a glorious service. So things are a little different. But for those who are followers, strict followers of Srila Prabhupada, they could feel his presence, and it doesn't have to seem so different. We could feel that Prabhupada's still here, and he's directing the movement, and he's who we answer to, and he's our source of inspiration. So it really depends where you are, who you're associating with. But there have been some ways in which things have changed, but then again, in many ways, things haven't changed. And better to be in the mood of feeling Prabhupada's presence and how things haven't changed. Because sometimes people think, oh, well, Prabhupada's not here, and therefore everything's messed up, and we can't do anything about it, and I'm just going to become a what do you call, like a critic, internet fast typing critic, fast video making, fast typing critic of ISKCON and all of its people and policies. So because there are a number of devotees on their YouTube, social media who are just very critical, like super critical. And pretty much that's all they do. They're pretty good at criticizing, which it's anyways. But Srila Prabhupada, very interesting actually. In the 60s or 70s, there was some machine that came out that made it easy to communicate with other countries, but it's very basic form of communication. Like you could send a few words or something. I don't even know what you call it. Telecom, telegram. It was something just like super basic. And then the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, because then we could talk with Europe. America could talk with Europe quick, and so they asked Prabhupada, should we get this for our temple? And Prabhupada said no. He said you'll simply use it to gossip, which is surprising. It's just this like telegram. I mean, a few words. I mean, so what to speak of, right? Nowadays, with WhatsApp, email, social media, it's just like, right? So yeah, we have to be careful that, I mean, my personal thing is I don't really, I know that there are issues, but I don't really feed my consciousness all that, because it's just like unlimited. And my conviction is that if Srila Prabhupada was here, in a sense, to direct us, he would say that get off the computer, stop reading all that, stop being a critic yourself, and just serve Krishna. Come to the temple, do service, go out and distribute books. I mean, there's a suffering humanity out there. Try to do something good for them. Anyways, so that's a very long kind of answer to your question. So I hope that satisfied you, because that's all I'm going to say in this regard right now.
Yes, that was an excellent answer. Thank you. I heard it put in a very short sort of way in one lecture. They said there's only one team in ISKCON, and that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's team. If you're doing anything else, you're not on the right team.
Nice. All right, so now we'll continue with this quote here. Srila Prabhupada has a unique relationship with every ISKCON devotee. As the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, and the preeminent teacher and ultimate authority within our society, Srila Prabhupada has a unique relationship with every ISKCON devotee. Srila Prabhupada, the empowered representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the box below, list reasons why we accept Srila Prabhupada as the representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the modern age. So another writing exercise. Why do we accept Srila Prabhupada as the empowered representative? So we'll take a few minutes. I'll send you the recording of the last one. All right. What about Justin Miller? Does Justin Miller want to share?
Sure. Just my answers or,
Yeah, what, yeah, yeah, in relation
I mean, oh
to
yes.
why we accept Prabhupada as the private representative.
I mean, this might be like the textbook answer, but I mean, it's what I got off the top of my head. But I mean, he comes from an unbroken line of disciplic succession. You know, going all the way back through his guru and his guru's guru, and like, you know, and if you walk that back, it pretty much goes all the way back to God. So, you know, and then on top of that, his conduct, actions, and teaching were in line with, you know, the Vedas and all of the other legitimate sources of Vedic teaching. So those are kind of, I know that's like the textbook answer, but I feel like it's a pretty solid answer. So, you know.
Yeah, nice.
But if anybody's got something a little more interesting, I would love to hear it because I know mine was kind of boring. It's like standard stuff.
Yeah, I had the textbook answer too, pretty much, but then I just added in that Prabhupada didn't add his opinion into the lectures, the literature, and the teachings, that he kept the knowledge pure.
Oh, that's really good. Thanks.
He also spread unique way congregation chanting.
Pawan said he
across the world.
another thing is that he spread the chanting throughout the world.
The street chanting.
The street chanting specifically, congregational chanting, kirtan, street chanting throughout the world. Yeah. Well, this is quite interesting. This is from Lochandas Thakur, this next quote here in Chaitanya Mangala. So there's three mostly important biographies of Lord Chaitanya. One is Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Srila Prabhupada translated. The other one is Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is available also, and it's translated by this devotee. I think his name's Sarvabhauma. What's his name? Anyways, there's a translation floating around ISKCON, and it has commentaries by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada's guru. So Chaitanya Bhagavat. And then there is Chaitanya Mangala by Lochandas Thakur. There's also one floating around ISKCON. So from Chaitanya Mangala, there's this quote here. And this book was written, hundreds of years ago. Taking the sharp sword of the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, so this is Lord Chaitanya speaking, I will root out and destroy the demonic mentality in the hearts of all the conditioned souls. If some sinful people escape, and giving up religious principles go to far off countries, then my Senapati Bhakta will come at that time to give them Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya is saying, I'm coming to destroy everyone's demonic mentality with the congregational chanting of the holy names. And if some people escape, going to far off countries, I'm going to send my Senapati Bhakta. So Senapati means like command, like a commander. My chief, commander in chief, my sergeant to do what? Will come at that time to give them Krishna consciousness. So, so devotees relate this to Srila Prabhupada because it does. He does fit the definition. And there's many quotes like that, actually. ISKCON in the future. What can be done to ensure that Srila Prabhupada remains ISKCON's founder, Acharya, and preeminent Shiksha Guru in the future? Write your thoughts in the box below. So what can be done to ensure Srila Prabhupada remains ISKCON's founder, Acharya? We'll just take a few minutes to do that. So what about Tom? Does Tom want to share?
Absolutely.
I like that Om that you put in the middle of the
I
name.
wrote, yeah, instead of the and symbol, I figured it fit a little better.
Yeah, it's nice.
I put, keeping the memory alive with these biographies, autobiography, just learning what he has brought and done. Book distribution, Harinam, continuing Chaitanya's teachings and what he's expressed, and really staying grateful for the sacrifices that he has made that has brought ISKCON to the, to us, because who knows when it would have ever touched down, or if it would have, had it not been for him making that sacrifice.
Great, thank you.
And I feel mine was, I mean, a little basic, but yet a little kind of to the point. Just saying, you know, make sure that we only learn from his disciplic teachings, and in turn only teach his disciplic, if I said that correctly, disciplic learnings.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so keeping alive memory of him through his reading his biographies is important, and hearing about him. And yeah, just like there was a time where, which we'll get into later in this course, but Srila Prabhupada's God brothers, which means his, you know, there's Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then he initiated Prabhupada, and he initiated many other devotees, and those are considered God brothers. So his God brothers were very critical of Srila Prabhupada. They didn't like some of the things that he was doing. For example, they didn't like that Srila Prabhupada accepted the name Prabhupada, because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his name is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So his God brothers felt that our Srila Prabhupada was taking the name Prabhupada unjustly. But the thing is, there's many gurus in our line named Prabhupada, like they call Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. Prabhupada means, Pad means feet, Prabhu means master, so it means the master in which all other masters, they sit at his feet. So special qualification. So they're mad at him because of that. They're mad at him because he was traditionally within India, they didn't allow women to stay in the temples, but Srila Prabhupada did that. He allowed women to stay in the temples. So his God brothers were upset about that. There's a number of things that they were upset about. And they're very critical. So at one point, when Prabhupada was in Mayapur, India, with all of his disciples, some of his disciples went to go hear from one of his God brothers, one guru. And then, so they went there and they heard from him, and then they came back. And then Srila Prabhupada heard that they went and saw his God brother. And then he said some statement like now you have been affected, and it cannot be reversed. You've been negatively affected and it cannot be reversed. Something like that. Because who we lend our ears to, it's very, it has a huge impact on us actually. So, for example, because some people think, oh, well, why can't I go hear from anybody and everybody? What's the problem? Why do I just have to hear from Prabhupada disciples? That seems a little fanatical. Like, now, of course, anyways, but the problem is that if somebody has some underlying negative feelings about Prabhupada, which some people do, then that will come off in their speech. That will be transferred from their mind, it'll come out of their mouth, and it'll go into our ears, and then it will be transplanted into our minds and particular seeds, and those seeds might turn into whatever sprouts and then trees, and then we've developed a mentality that is lacking faith in Prabhupada. So better to hear from people who have a lot of faith in Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya and who are following him, because then we could also develop that faith. And if we develop that faith, then that's good because he's the founder Acharya, he's ultimate authority, and we have that connection, we have that faith. And that faith comes from people from hearing from those who have faith in him. But if we hear from people who don't have that faith, then we don't really get what Prabhupada is trying to give us. So that's why it's important. Just like people think, oh, it's so fanatical, you know, why can't you go hear from other Vaishnava groups, and what's the big problem, and this and that. I explained a little bit just now, but there's nothing wrong with being chaste to one's founder Acharya. Actually, one should be. Nobody, generally speaking, nobody complains and, you know, why is a man and a woman, why are they just, and they're married, why are they just focusing on each other? You know, it's a big world out there. Why don't they focus on other people? You know, come on, you know, kind of expand your mind a little bit. Generally, people don't think like that. They think, okay, a married person thinks, okay, I've made up my mind, I made up my decision, this is who I'm married to, and it's not like it's just a big world and, you know, you're chaste to a person. So it's a similar principle. Like Prabhupada was one time talking with some spiritual seeker in San Francisco, and the spiritual seeker was saying, yeah, you know, I'm looking into this, I'm looking into that, I'm looking into this, and, you know, he's kind of like, and I'm following this, I'm following that. And then Prabhupada, he put his hand on his knee and he said, my dear boy, you know, okay, you're doing all this, you're searching, but he said, at one point, it just becomes like sense gratification. Or in other words, at one point, you're just kind of uselessly wasting time. So just like somebody, for example, somebody who is for a person who is looking for a spouse, they could be searching, and they could just search their whole life, right? But generally, people would say, okay, you make a search and then you stop. It's like, you know, no need for when. So now, of course, nowadays it presents kind of a problem because people like a fashion is to not be committed. You know, it's like, why do you have to be committed to something? But the thing is, everyone is committed. If they're not committed to a relationship, if they're not committed to a religion, if they're not committed to some sports team, they're committed to something. They're committed to being non-committed, or they're committed to just trying to satisfy the urges of their senses. So they're committed. Everybody's committed. That actually brings happiness and ultimately being committed to Krishna consciousness. So yeah, that's why there's a stress just to listen to those who will build our faith.
So I feel probably brings up such a great point because as aspiring for Vashishika Das Maharaj is that I trust in him being a disciple from Prabhupada and in that succession. So it's like having that faith. So
Yeah.
It's like I don't need to listen to someone else. I mean, here obviously we have Maharaj or other speakers still in that line. So it's like I trust in that. I have faith in that.
Yeah.
So it was like letting me know I didn't need to search for another teacher or whatever. And Maharaj even says, you know, ISKCON isn't perfect, but trust in it and don't leave. And I like when he said that and I understood, I was like, oh, that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I do trust in this. I have the faith in this.
Steve is saying that he's aspiring for Vaisheshika Prabhu. Does everybody know Vaisheshika?
He's up in LA, right? Is that Vaisheshika?
He's in so he's in Silicon Valley, Mountain View.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know who I can see his face when you say his name. I just for some reason I thought he was in LA.
He's a very positive person. He's a very positive person. So if you need some positivity, you can listen to him. But he's a guru in our society, and he's up there in Mountain View. So anyways, you could tune into his classes. How do we get his classes?
They post every week for his devotees. So YouTube.
What do we look up on YouTube?
I think you just look up Maharaj's name or ISKCON Silicon Valley.
ISKCON Silicon Valley.
It's on their ISD.
Okay.
ISKCON Silicon ISD.
You can reach out to me too, because I go to Zoom classes that he hosts, and like Bhakti Circle, and they have Japa. He has a whole lot of like Zoom classes, and it's not always him presenting, but like the head devotees from Silicon Valley, they lead these like group talks, and it's really nice.
All right, so she knows. Good. So yeah, Stevie's saying that he has faith in Vaisheshika Prabhu being the disciplic succession, and therefore he's inspired and enthused, and he doesn't feel that he needs to. I mean, there's many devotees out there. It's like it's a huge ISKCON world, and there's I mean, we're having a discussion now, but this is just one. I mean, there's so many going on right now all over the world. So there's no lack. But we just have to be careful. Like, in other words, it's like if you're associated with somebody, like let's say again, you're married, right? Now you're associated with somebody and they don't really like your wife, they don't really like your husband, they have some doubts about their character, about their personality. It's like, okay, you could associate with those people to a degree, but how much do you really want to? Why are you going to associate with somebody who just has serious faith issues and really ultimately a disliking in your spouse? It just doesn't make any sense. It means you love that person so much, you don't want to associate with people who are against that person. So that's a principle. So anyways. Okay, Pawan has something.
Being that as there are different ideas, we can discussing different ideas, different people, So what?
I'll repeat the question.
What helped in my understanding is that if as an individual DOG, if we read Prabhupada books regularly and listen to his lectures, so it's like investing time and energy to listening what Prabhupada said, because it's hard for one person to say what Prabhupada was, right? It's so many information and his thoughts and lectures. So then only we can understand who is Prabhupada following and who is not. And that's how we understand him, to listen to him, not to listen to him.
Yeah.
Because otherwise nobody is going to discriminate and explain for me, because I have to understand it by.
Yeah. So Pawan's saying that by listening to Prabhupada's lectures, by reading his books, then we could get an idea of who he is, also biographies, that we could get an idea of who he is. And then when we're hearing a class from somebody, then we could, based on our understanding of Prabhupada, we could know, okay, is this person presenting Prabhupada like he should be presenting it? And then if they're not, if it's like, hey, that's not how Prabhupada is, like, what are you talking about? Of course we could ask questions, respectfully or this and that, or we could just not listen to the person. So anyways, it's something to consider. Okay, so this is a quote from a letter to Bhagavan. one of Prabhupada's disciples. I also thank you very much for your appreciation of my books and letters and for my speaking in the meetings. They are not my words, as I have repeatedly informed you that I am simply the bearer of the message of Lord Chaitanya through the disciplic succession, and I do not make any addition or subtraction. Similarly, if you all carry these words successively, then the transcendental parampara disciplic succession system will be exactly maintained, and people in general will be benefited. So Prabhupada said, I didn't change, I didn't add, so please do the same. All right, so lesson 4, page 22. Attitude of an ISKCON guru, gurus and ISKCON authorities, instructions, gurus outside of ISKCON. Attitude of an ISKCON guru. So it looks like there's another writing exercise. All right, let's see. What do you consider is the appropriate attitude in general for an ISKCON guru, current and future, in regard to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada? The authority structure within ISKCON. I think we could just look at the authority structure in ISKCON. That's on page 23. So you see this chart here. The Srila Prabhupada, the GBC body, Sannyas Ministry, Guru Service Committee, the Guru, Regional Body, Sannyasi, Temple President, Namhat Coordinator, Temple Residents, Disciples, Congregation, Disciples. So you have Srila Prabhupada, so we should try to understand Srila Prabhupada. Then there's the GBC body. So the GBC body is a group of devotees who Prabhupada instituted the GBC, Governing Body Commission, to manage the society. And in Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, before he passed away, he wanted his disciples to do the same thing. And they didn't. And historically, their whole society fell apart. Gaudiya Math fell apart practically. So, so Prabhupada wanted the GBC. And the GBC is the ultimate managing authority within ISKCON. So, for example, within the United States of America, we have the West Coast, Midwest, and we have the East Coast. And there's groups of devotees who manage these zones. So you have like San Diego, LA, Laguna Beach, Las Vegas, Tucson, Phoenix, Portland. That's all managed by one GBC, Bhajanarayan Swami. Now, what does that mean? It means if the temple presidents, if there's some issues, right, that the temples are going through, this issue, that issue, then the GBC will step in and try to help manage things. Also, we'll go there and try to give encouragement to the devotees and just overlook the temple. So the GBC is there. Sannyas Ministry means that they're managing the sannyasis, those in the renounced order of life. And then the Guru Services Committee, it's a similar thing with the gurus. Regional body means that this is a body of devotees who helps the GBC. And there's the temple presidents, And then there's like the home program or Namhata coordinators. And then there's disciples, residents of the temple, and there's congregation disciples. So there's supposed to be clear communication with everyone. We're all working together. And this chart is just demonstrating this idea of those arrows are representing the arrows of sharp words. And just joking. Now these arrows are just supposed to represent some type of communication, some type of means we're not just independent. You know, there's always people we need to clear things with, and communicate with, and so on. So does anybody have any questions about this gurus and ISKCON authorities chart? Is it confusing enough or what?
I'm just curious if Bhadanarayan Swami's in charge of the Pacific region, who's in charge of the Northwest?
Well, Bhadanarayan Swami is also in charge of Portland.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
in Boise, Idaho. Now there's Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Which is our Hari Vilas, right?
Okay.
Now, Hari Vilas used to be a GBC member, but is not anymore. But Bhadanarayan Swami is not in charge of Seattle. And I think because, I don't know, anyways.
Yeah, because I was tracking that Hari Vilas was in charge, Maharaj was in charge of the, I swear he had something to do with the Middle East too. Or at least he used to. I don't know if he's still.
Bhadanarayan Swami?
No, Hari Vilas.
Oh yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, so I think they're just leaving Seattle to Hari Vilas because he's quite a energetic person. So
yeah,
I think he's able to manage things. So there are some rarities, yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, thanks, bro.
How do people get on the GBC? Are the gurus, are they voted in? How does that work?
Okay. So there's about 30 GBCs in the world, so it's not very many. And again, the world's divided into zones. So every aspect, every place of the world, a GBC is supposed to be managing, where there's Krishna consciousness. Now, how does one become a GBC? Well, Srila Prabhupada, he voted in, or he selected GBC members when he was here. And many of those, or at least a number of those GBC members who have been selected by Srila Prabhupada, some of them are still serving in that capacity. Of course, they're thinking about succession and they're thinking about retiring, and some of them have retired. They've put in 5 new GBCs recently. One for South Africa, one for Baltics, one for Hungary. So they put some GBCs in, new ones. And how that happened was that the Prabhupada disciple GBCs who were serving for many years, naturally they want to retire. So what they did is they, in their congregation, in their realm of influence, or their disciples or whatever, they tried to find somebody who could take over the service, who they felt could be trained and who was competent to manage. So, for example, Shivaram Swami, he has a disciple, Radha Krishna Prabhu, who is now the GBC for Hungary and Romania and and Turkey. So Sri Ramaswamy, he found Radhakrishna. He was bringing him to the meetings for like years because they have annual GBC meetings in Mayapur every year. They'll get together and work things out throughout the movement, problems, this, that. So Radhakrishna did that. And there's also what they call a GBC college. So it's like a 1.5 year training program, classes and all that. So pretty much a GBC member will select a devotee to train, and this devotee has to take the GBC college and just be trained, and eventually they could be put into the position of a GBC. And they meet twice a year in India. They discuss, I'm sure, problems around the world, ISKCON world. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? They discuss how to expand the movement, things like that. I've never been to a GBC meeting, so I don't exactly know what they discuss. But I guess you could say, in essence, how to expand things, how to solve problems. Yeah. And in terms of gurus being voted in, there is, you could say, a voting system where a group of senior devotees will analyze a particular devotee and see if they're, like, for example, one devotee, he may have many people coming to him. Can you initiate me? And then this devotee will say, well, I can't because, I mean, I could, you know. But for it to be authorized within ISKCON, there's a whole process to become a guru. So, okay, so many people are asking me, then I will approach the senior devotees, the GBC, this and that. And if they think I'm fit and there's some voting process, then it could be approved. And then a person can initiate. So, yeah. Which some people have a problem with that. Surprise, surprise. People have problems with everything, but somebody has a problem with some people have problems with everything, but they said, well, how else are you supposed to do it? I mean, you're managing an institution, a worldwide institution. Now, of course, I could just start initiating people, you know. If someone wants to be initiated, I could just initiate them. Okay, you want to be my disciple? Okay, I'll initiate you. But but there has to be some way to standardize things. What if most devotees don't think I'm qualified? What if I have a problem, I don't know, controlling my temper? Or I have a problem, you know, whatever. Yeah?
Sorry to interrupt. Isn't there like meeting?
Yes.
Board meeting? Oh, what time?
4. So, so what if I have a problem and then most of the devotees realize that, but I'm just initiating people, you know? So in other words, there has to be a way to standardize things. This is what it means to be a guru, and the senior devotees feel that you have fit you have qualified with these particular qualities. So okay, you could do it. I can't see any other way.
And then if you're initiating guru, they have to be deceased before you can be an initiating guru. Is that true?
Srila Prabhupada commented on that. He said that the general policy etiquette is that for a disciple whose guru is still present, the disciple will bring the prospective disciples to their guru and will not initiate in the presence of their guru. That's the general etiquette.
Tukaram doesn't initiate because of that, right?
I don't
I
know.
think people have asked him, is Drew still alive?
I don't know about Tukram. Yeah, his guru's still alive. So, but there has been some exceptions. Like, for example, there's one devotee in our movement. His name is Bhakti Vigyan Goswami. He's a devotee from Russia, and he's a disciple of Radhanath Swami. But Bhakti Vigyan Goswami, he has many disciples. He initiated. And the reason being is because there's so many devotees in Russia, and Radhanath Swami doesn't go there. So Bhakti Vigyan Goswami initiates. Similarly, there's a devotee, Kadamba Karana Swami, who's a disciple of Jayadvaita Swami. Jayadvaita Swami is a Prabhupada disciple, and Kadamba Karana Swami is a disciple of Jayadvaita Swami. But Kadamba Karana Swami, he has many disciples because Jayadvaita Swami wanted him to. Now, recently, there's been GBC talk about having more gurus, because at present there's only really, I don't know, maybe 80 gurus, but how many devotees are there? There's like thousands of devotees, and it's just increasing. So the proportion of devotees to the proportion of how many gurus there are, it just doesn't add up. So they're making a push, and the push is that there's been devotees who've been around for 30 or 40 years who are qualified to accept disciples, but their guru is still around. So the idea now is that even though their guru is still around, they want to give these devotees the ability to initiate in the presence of their guru, with the idea of just having more gurus, and the idea of also a disciple who initiates in the presence of their guru, they could also get training, guidance training. So that's the idea. So there's some push for that. Now, of course, there's devotees been around 30 or 40 years, but the question is, they also have to want to do it, because they could go, the GBC could go to all these devotees and say, oh, please initiate. They say, no, I don't want to. My guru's still around, and even if he wasn't around, I don't want to, So we'll see how it goes. Because I know many devotees, I know some devotees who could initiate, but they don't, because they don't want to, for different reasons. So yeah, but anyways, that's the general idea. But now it's kind of being adjusted for the purpose of expanding the Krishna consciousness movement. Because sometimes people it comes a disturbance in their mind. My guru has thousands of disciples, and I'm just one of them, and I hardly see them. And how am I supposed to have a personal relationship with them? So the idea is, if you create many gurus, they'll have less disciples, and then they can have more of a relationship, which in some ways seems more natural. To have many gurus with fewer disciples, it seems more natural to some. And like at present, there are gurus who operate like that anyways. Like my spiritual master, my conviction is he personally, or he made a choice not to accept many disciples. He accepts, but in comparison to some of his god brothers, a lot less. And not because he's not popular and famous and well known and well respected and learned and all that. It's just he somehow or other arranged it in such a way where he has a lot less. So I hope that answers.
Out of curiosity, in becoming a guru, is that something that, like, say a disciple like you looks towards doing? Like, do do you have a thought in your mind now that like that's something that you yourself would like to eventually?
I mean, there has, because people could want to do things for the wrong reasons. So yeah, people think, oh yeah, maybe some people throughout history think, yeah, I'll be a guru, and then everything's taken care of. I got my retirement package, and I got a bunch of loving disciples who will take care of me, and I don't got to worry about anything, and they treat me nicely. Of course, there's a lot that goes with being a guru. It's not just everybody's treating you nicely. They also present problems, issues, complexity, right? They could cause some difficulty also. So there's wrong and right reasons that people may want to do that. So yeah, I mean, do some people, look forward to that or have a desire to do that? I'm sure there are, people like that, for right and wrong reasons, or mixed reasons, you could say, because not everything's just black and white. There's mixed desires. But in terms of myself, throughout my Krishna consciousness, I've just pretty much, I've pretty much not pushed myself. I've pushed myself in a way, I have to push everybody has to push themselves, right, towards making progress. But I've never pushed myself to really do something that would like put myself in a position of leadership in any way, shape, or form. Like, for example, I never asked to lead a kirtan at a Sunday feast. I never asked to do it, which I could have, but I didn't. And then somebody just asked me, hey, lead. I said, okay. And I led, and then I continued to lead. I guess they liked it to a degree. Or to give class. I never asked to give class. I never was like, please sign me up. I want to give class. But they asked me to, so I did. I'm traveling on the West Coast lately. And yeah, I mean, I had a desire to, but they asked me. I didn't ask to, but they asked me to. So I am. So I've never really like pushed myself to or asked so much. So so then the question is, okay, well, maybe they'll ask me to be a guru. So then what do I say? I don't know. What do I say? No. So yeah, it's a question. Okay, well, what do you say when they ask you? But even if they were to ask me, that would be, that would be some years from now. So if they'd ask me, I'd have to ask myself, okay, why am I doing that, or why am I considering this? Do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this? What's going to be the benefit for anyone, or how's it going to affect me? Am I able to do it? Do I have what are my qualifications to do it? Does Prabhupada want me to do it? Does my guru want me to do it? Do the devotees want me to do it? And should I do it? So it's a big question, that if in the future I have to encounter that question, then yeah, I'd have to think about it and really encounter or contemplate. What do you think?
I mean, that's kind of a hard one to say. I like how you said, you know, there's so many different aspects of thinking about how to approach it. But I'll say, I mean, in what I've seen of you so far, I think you would make a great guru.
All right, thank you. Yeah, but at least in my mind, like I'm not thinking, okay, all right, so I just continue and I stay around and I'll keep on going. And then one day they'll appoint me a guru, you know, and then eventually I'll have some students and then eventually have more students and then I'll train them this way, I'll educate them this way, I'll try to be a good example this way, that way. At least I'm not thinking like that. Like it's not a thought that enters my mind practically at all. So, but the general idea of being a teacher, you could, I guess some people see me like that and I operate like that to a degree. So that's there. And then, yeah, so that role of a teacher may increase, you know, over time. That's what it's looking like, kind of going more places, traveling more. So that may increase the role of a teacher. But then there's the teacher aspect, and there's the Diksha Guru aspect, because teachers like a Shiksha Guru, you know, you instruct people who want your advice, or you encourage or assist people who want your advice. That's like a Shiksha Guru. But then a Diksha Guru is a whole nother world. So Shiksha Guru or teacher, yeah, some people see me like that, and over time it looks like that will increase. But the Diksha Guru world, it's kind of like it's a whole nother topic, and it's a whole nother world that I'm not really thinking about much. So sorry if that was too long. All right, is there any other anything else in relation to this? All right, so we could do this writing exercise on page 22. We've talked about the general idea of, it's a huge topic, but the general briefly idea of ISKCON authorities, gurus, Prabhupada, GBC, and how to be a GBC and this and that. So so the question is, the writing exercise, what do you consider is the appropriate attitude in general for an ISKCON guru, current and future, in regard to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, of the authority structure within ISKCON? So what's the appropriate attitude for an ISKCON guru in regard to these things? How should they view these things? Teachings of Prabhupada, the authority structure within ISKCON. Say, I'm my own authority. I'm not, just joking. I'm not following this authority. I'm the authority. Structure. I don't want anything to do with it. I joined this movement not to follow structure or authority. Right? I make the rules.
think that's enough time.
So would anyone like to share some?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I actually feel like this is a hard question to answer because it's easy to confuse appropriate attitude with personality in some respect. I feel like the attitude should be similar to Prabhupada's, but like, like every guru is different. Like they all have
Yeah.
their own personalities. So it's like, and I've only met a couple of them, but it's like, you know, but I think having an attitude, like having the same sense of obviously like adhering to like, principles and like structures and things like that, and adhering to disciplined teaching, but at the same time kind of having a sense of like kind of, and I'm sorry if I'm putting this into like military terms, but it's all I know, but like almost like a sense of command, and not in a bossy or mean way, but like okay, I'm the guru at this given location, or this region, and like sort of having an understanding of the gravity and responsibility of your position, regardless of how you pursue that with your own personality. But and I've seen that, it's very up here, it's very different, versus like San Diego, and they're both good in different ways. It's just like, but I think at the end of the day, as long as that attitude of, service and humility coupled with understanding that like there's work to be done to continue Srila Prabhupada's mission, I think that's a big deal. But anyway, those are my 2 cents.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other?
I think one other thing with the attitude is you don't want your guru to come across as they know it all. They should be referring to the scriptures and to the books and to Sri Prabhupada's teachings. They shouldn't just, generally just blabber out stuff to you that doesn't have some kind of bhakti background to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so every guru has their own individuality and their own personality and their own way of going about things. But they should be chaste to Prabhupada's teachings, and the authority structure within ISKCON means they work with others. But yeah, the point about not just saying things, whimsically saying things, but those things having to be in connection with what Srila Prabhupada said, that's important, because we don't want it to become like it becomes like a guru. It could become like a guru, I don't say groupie, like a guru groupie group. It can become like, okay, we're all attached to the guru, but we completely forget about Prabhupada. But the guru is supposed to help us remember Srila Prabhupada and his teachings and what he stood for. He's supposed to, you could say, reflect some of Srila Prabhupada's brilliance. In other words, we should look at our guru and not just see the guru alone, but we see him with Srila Prabhupada. We don't see the guru alone. He's always with Prabhupada. It's an important thing because a guru may, which is inappropriate actually, not really communicate to the disciples in such a way as for them to remember Prabhupada, but they're just pretty much communicating in a way in which, okay, they're getting Krishna consciousness, but they're not really getting Prabhupada. The guru is not delivering Prabhupada to them. That's a problem. Because the guru is meant to connect one with Prabhupada and his teachings and what he stood for, because he's the perfect example. And similarly, so the guru is supposed to communicate that and act in such a way as to relay that. But similarly, the disciple has to be careful not to just see the guru alone. But the disciple has to see the guru in relation to his guru, Prabhupada. So it's important. Yeah, because it can become like an ego fest party. I just came up with that word, ego fest. Ego, like ego. What do I mean by that? It's like, well, for example, and I'm not saying that the devotee didn't have any good intentions, but there was just some misbehavior, you could say. So on the appearance of the spiritual master, the birthday of the spiritual master, one is supposed to have a big celebration. There are a lot of garlands, flowers. There's there's the guru sits there and the disciples, say so many nice things one by one about the guru. And it's a worship of the spiritual master, like formal worship of the guru that day. And it happens throughout ISKCON. You can look it up and you can see some videos of it. Vyasa Puja of Giriraj Swami, or Vyasa Puja by Sheshaka or Prabhu. They're out there. Vyasa Puja, it's called. So many years ago, like probably 30 years ago, this guru is no longer guru anymore. But I was told that they had a celebration. All of these disciples had a celebration celebrating this guru's Vyasa Puja. It was like a 3-day celebration, like huge celebration, and what do you call it, decorations and a whole, right? And that's good. I mean, that's good. The disciples should express their love and devotion to the guru, and there's nothing wrong with that. It should be done. But they have to express at least the same amount or more to Srila Prabhupada on his birthday. So the case was that on this guru's appearance day, there was so much, pomp and celebration, but on Prabhupada's day was a lot less. So in this way, it becomes a little, it's not right. So yeah. Anyways, so I think that the guru has to be speaking in such a way as to convey Srila Prabhupada's teachings, and has to act within the authority structure of ISKCON, and try to be Prabhupada centric, Krishna centric. Because if the guru is not Prabhupada and Krishna centric, then that means they'll be self-centric. Now, I just made that word up also, Prabhupada-centric, Krishna-centric. I've never used that before. And I don't even know if self-centric is also, maybe that's a word, but I never really used that one either, so first time. All right, so we can go to 24. So because some of us are on Zoom, and I think it's a little challenging to do this, but okay, so actually all the classes I've taught, we haven't done a skit so far. I don't know, maybe because I didn't encourage it so much, but maybe I should encourage it, but sorry. But we've just kind of discussed. Okay, now the discussion or the skit is supposed to show, okay, an appropriate and inappropriate way of dealing with a situation wherein the instructions given by one's local ISKCON authority differ from the instructions given by one's guru. An appropriate way of dealing with a situation wherein the instructions given by one's local ISKCON authority differ from the instructions given by one's guru. So it's a little bit of an awkward situation because they're saying, okay, your ISKCON authority, your temple president gives you one instruction, and then your Diksha guru gives you another instruction. And how are you supposed to deal with that? What's the appropriate way? What's the inappropriate way? Now, generally, in my experience, this doesn't really happen so much. And you would think that if the ISKCON authority, I mean, of course, one could be mature and then just, give contrary instructions or just not agree with each other. But generally, they work together. They should. So we shouldn't be falling in the situation in which I have to think, poor disciple, my guru gives one instruction, this ISKCON authority gives another. What do I do? It's difficult because you're both of your authorities. So they should have maturity to work it out themselves, really. But a case of this would be, for example, your ISKCON authority says, I want you to stay at the temple, let's say, or in the community, right? I want you to stay in the Las Vegas community and continue your support of the ISKCON Las Vegas project. And your Diksha Guru says, I want you to come to Florida and help with this farm community. Abandon all your duties immediately. All right, surrender them to me. So abandon your duties immediately and come to Florida. We already got your place ready. Now, ideally, the guru would communicate with this kind of authority, and they would communicate and say, okay, is this right? Is this wrong? Is this the best for the individual? And they would come to conclusion themselves. No, he should stay in ISKCON Las Vegas, or no, he should go to the farm community, or she should go to the farm community. So that's like an example, right? Changing locations, changing temples. So I guess you could say an appropriate way to deal with it would be if the Diksha Guru says to you, I want you to come here, then you go to the ISKCON temple president and say, this is what my Diksha Guru is thinking. Maybe you two could work it out, or you go to the ISKCON authority says, I want you to do this, but then the Diksha Guru or whatever, they have different opinions. Or you could go to both of them and say, I'm sorry, but I'm in the middle here, and it seems like I'm getting contrary instructions here. I don't know what to do. You two are, senior persons. Can you please work it out? See what could be done. Anyways, but I don't think anybody here is going to have to deal with anything like that. So you don't have to worry about it so much. Okay, so all right, there's one more exercise. This is writing exercise. This is on page 24. So it says, list in the table below some of the benefits of accepting Diksha, initiation, and Shiksha, instructing gurus within ISKCON. So what are the benefits of accepting Diksha and Shiksha gurus in ISKCON? You think you tell them that we're gonna have the board meeting here. It's just me, myself, and here, and everybody else will be. So. So what are some benefits, Pawan?
So I think one will remain within the parental system. One will
Nice.
and also set of teaching
Nice.
and the Shiksha and Diksha both are in ISKCON and they're in sync with each other.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when someone is outside.
So Pawan said that the benefit of taking initiation in ISKCON and Shiksha Gurus in ISKCON is that we will be connected to the disciplic succession and be connected to Prabhupada and the whole disciplic succession. And we'll have the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and his followers. And he was saying that it's important to have Shiksha Gurus in ISKCON because if you have Shiksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus in ISKCON, then they will not have a different opinion. Of course, they could still have a different opinion, but there's a lot of different opinions. But generally, for the most part, right, they'll have the same viewpoints. So those are some of the benefits. I mean, ISKCON right now, it's the largest leading exponent of Vaishnavism throughout the world. ISKCON has won the trophy for that one. The largest leading ISKCON or largest leading exponent of Vaishnavism throughout the world, and it's continuing and getting bigger. So many temples, devotees. It's not stopping. So it's nice to be in connection with that movement because it's a worldwide movement and it's powerful. So it's you could say privilege to be a part of such a nice spiritual family. All right, well, there's a few quotes here. This is page 25. All right, 26 and 27 you could read at free time if you like, but we'll read 25. Those who accept the service of Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru in ISKCON are required to be exemplary in representing Prabhupada's teachings in their words and personal behavior. The Shiksha Guru gives spiritual instruction and inspiration on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara. The Diksha Guru gives spiritual instruction.
Sorry to interrupt, but it's like old times. We're going to be in the Krishna Lounge.
Well,
it's wonderful.
Just myself and you.
Yeah, but it's a start.
Yeah.
Nothing like in person. Hey, Krishna. So I'm just going to leave these here until come back at 4.
Okay.
Or a little bit before. We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Krishna.
Thank you, sir.
The Diksha Guru gives spiritual instruction, inspiration, formal initiation, a spiritual name, and later imparts the sacred Gayatri mantras to a qualified disciple as a service to Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara. Okay, this is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada's guru, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next acharya, teacher, but just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of acharya, and they split into two factions over who the next acharya would be. Consequently, both factions were asar, or useless, because they had no authority, having disobeyed the order of their spiritual master. This is from Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a lot of history, this particular this history of Prabhupada's Guru's movement being split into factions and so on. When they saw that they don't like ISKCON and the GBC, this is Prabhupada's statement, a letter or a instruction. When they say that they don't like ISKCON and the GBC, they're really saying they don't like to follow my order. That means that they don't like my order. That means that they don't have faith in my order. That means that they don't have faith in me. That means Guru Aparad, offense to Guru. To say they have faith in me is just hypocrisy. So we have to have faith in Srila Prabhupada, not just Prabhupada, but his followers. So both. So we have to find followers or find leaders and actually followers who we could have our faith in, who we could have faith in. Better you should stick to hearing from authorized persons like your spiritual master or experienced God brothers, but never try to hear someone who is not in our line. It is simply a waste of time to hear and then again have to rectify the mistake. So we hear, and there's some not so in par instructions with Prabhupada, and then we become confused, and someone has to rectify the mistake. I have now issued orders that all my disciples should avoid all of my God brothers. They should not have any dealings with them, nor even correspondence, nor should they give them any of my books, or should they purchase any of their books. Neither should you visit any of their temples. Please avoid them. So Prabhupada's God brothers were very critical, like we were mentioning earlier, and Prabhupada thought it was better that his disciples just don't associate with them. And this mood has, not in all cases, but in a number of cases, has been a similar ongoing problem. Of course, Prabhupada's God brothers have passed away, but there's others in their line who have developed a similar mindset towards ISKCON, toward Prabhupada, negative. So it is there. The last one, all Vaishnavas are authorities to preach Krishna consciousness, but still there are degrees of authorities. On the whole, if this Ban Maharaj, Prabhupada's God brother, motive is to suppress me, and that is why he has come here, how we can receive him? He has already given one professor a wrong impression. He may be treated as a guest. If he comes to our center, give him prasadam, honor him as an elder Vaishnav, but he cannot speak or lecture. If he wants to lecture, you can tell him that there is already another speaker scheduled. That's all. So there's additional quotes on 26 and 27, and we could discuss some of these more points because there might be more to discuss in relation to these, what I just read. We'll get more into it next time. But the next lesson will be Guru Padashraya, which means taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Guru, and Prabhupada Padashraya, taking shelter of Prabhupada. And then there'll be one selecting a Guru. That's lesson 6. So we'll be entering some interesting initiation vows. So we'll be entering some interesting topics soon. Next time. And next time we could meet at 3. So. All right. So it was very nice to meet with all of you. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Until we meet again.
Be
Voice Prabhupada.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So how do we?
You go to Bhadranath Swami's email.
I got so many emails from him. How am I gonna? I'm just joking. He's the main person who emails me. Hare Krishna. All right, Stevie, Hare Krishna. We're going into another meeting.
Yes. My second one today. And my BDA for Guru Maharaj in the group 2.
Okay, you find the link.